This is History for Cocktail Parties with hack historians Thornton Kennedy and James Ottley.
Welcome to History for Cocktail Parties. I'm Thornton Kennedy, and I'm here with the co-host, James Ottley.
How are you, man?
I am doing great. I am super excited about today's episode.
Me too.
We're going to be talking football. Are you ready for some football?
Yes, sir. Let's do it.
You look it. You've got the Georgia hat. You've got the Duke
Fraternity Kappa Sig t-shirt on, which I have kept since 1993.
We might have to take a picture
Smells,
of this. It's
smells
got
a little.
holes all over it. It looks like it has been through. It has seen some Saturdays.
Yes.
Some Saturday Duke football games.
That's right.
So tell me, what are your experiences with football? Did you play football growing up?
You know, I never played football, and in fact, more than a few people are probably going to get a good chuckle out of my doing or trying to do a football episode, including my son. Anytime I ask a stupid question during a football game, he replies to me with the term "sports games," which is a reference to a Modern Family episode where Mitch, complains. He says, my father never took me to any of his sports games when I was growing up. And Cameron says, maybe because you called them sports games. So it wasn't that bad, but I'm not as big a fan as you are. Still a fan, but probably don't have the knowledge base. No, I do not have the knowledge base that you do.
Man, I love football. I can watch football from Thursday until Monday night. Lots of memories with my granddad. Going to Athens. You went to Georgia.
Yeah, man.
Going to Athens on Saturdays in my little number 34 jersey.
Nice.
And watching the greatest running back in the history of college football at Sanford Stadium just chew up yardage, Herschel Walker. And I'm fortunate, maybe once a year, maybe twice a year to get invited back up there in the fall. And it's just one of the great experiences of all time. America's pastime is baseball, but it's down here in the South. It's football.
It's football. Did you know that I'm throwing this in that Herschel Walker's cleats, his shoes from his from one of the championship game are buried in a time capsule at WSB, and it's supposed to be open. I'm not kidding. 50 years after what?
1981, 82, I guess.
Maybe they already opened it. I hope I didn't miss it.
Actually, I don't think you did. I'm 50.
Okay.
I'm 73, 73. Yeah. So we've got a couple more years before they
I just did some Georgia math there.
You just did some jobs. No, we're not going to do that. So we always like to have a good cocktail with our show. And James, you handed me something that it looks like it's in a solo cup.
Oh, I've whipped up something really special for you today, Thornton. It's a little recipe of syrup of corn, malted barley, yeast, some hops, and some water.
It looks a lot like a beer.
It is a beer.
I don't think there's a more appropriate cocktail for an episode on football than a good old beer.
And if you like, I'll put an ice cube in it, make it an Alabama cocktail for you.
That's perfect. Oh, well, let's say a quick word about our sponsor, Play.
Absolutely. Always appreciate them. Business is serious, but who wants serious, stodgy marketing? Check out our friends at Play, a full-service advertising agency. They're deep in the mix with AI and digital know-how, driving more people to your door. And whether it's IRL, in real life, or virtual, Play ensures the right people find you and buy what you're selling. See their many case studies at goplaydesign.com. That's goplaydesign.com. And start growing your business today.
Thank you, Play. We really appreciate your support. Love you as partners. Thank you so much. So let's get into some football here.
Let's do it.
Football is big in the South. Everybody, I think, has a story of going to Tuscaloosa or Death Valley, going down to Oxford for an Ole Miss game. The numbers bear it out. 6 of the 10 largest football stadiums are in the southeastern United States. These things hold hundreds of thousands of people.
It's crazy.
Not hundreds of thousands. Hundreds of thousands. ESPN Disney pays the Southeastern Conference $3 billion over 10 years just to broadcast the games. And apparently that's a deal for Disney.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it is.
That's a lot of money. It shows just how much people love football.
When we talk about the history of football, you'll find that these games were drawing 2,000 people in like 1870.
It's crazy.
So it's been a popular game going back to its
from the get-go.
From the get-go. Coaches legends, the Bear Bryant, Nick Saban, Steve Spurrier, all household names. So we're not going to back all the way up to the beginning, but I do want to talk about how football evolves from, I guess nobody would be surprised that it evolves from soccer.
Yeah.
Right? From a game of kicking a ball across a field, which goes back to 5000 BC. There's stories of the Chinese dynasties. It was military exercise.
Oh, no kidding.
To learn to kick the ball in scrum. But these things were just scrums.
Yeah.
They were tons and tons of people going, the goal was to get the ball over the line, and you see evidence of it in the Middle Ages is all the way up through, and it sort of becomes a popular game in England, but it's not the soccer that we know today. It's just violent. It's everybody in the village
comes rules
out, and they all kick. But I think the most important moment in the evolution of football is the rugby connection.
Yeah.
Right? It's the beginning of that moment where the ball goes from the feet up into the hands, right? And there's actually a great story about how that happened, the first time it happened. 1823, at the rugby school in England. This was in Rugby England, a prestigious elite school founded in 1567. And the story goes that the school had a very strict policy about ending games at precisely 5 o'clock. And right when the first chime hit, the ball was kicked to a young man named William Webb Ellis. And knowing he had just 4 more chimes to score, he picked the ball up, put it under his arm, and ran to the goal line before the final chime, and he scored.
Ran for glory.
Just went ahead and went for it. His actions were considered cheating and unbecoming of an English gentleman.
Okay.
But to this day, there is a plaque at the rugby school that says, quote, "To commemorate the exploit of William Webb Ellis, who with a fine disregard for the rules of football as played in his time, first took the ball in his arms and ran with it, thus originating the distinctive feature of the rugby game."
Sometimes you guys just break the rules, man.
So and you become a celebrity. So
Absolutely.
What happens in rugby and around that sort of prep school or the secondary schools are that they all start playing this game just backyard, right? They start picking the ball up and running with it.
Sure.
And it becomes this sort of phenomenon in and of itself. It migrates over to the United States. Remember, that's 1823.
Yeah.
And so that it migrates over to the United States. And where else where would you think football would start in the United States?
Georgia.
No.
Dang.
Wouldn't it be great if it was Southern? Harvard.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
And at Harvard, there was a game, they pitted the freshman class against the sophomore class on the first Monday of the school year. And when I say the freshman class versus the sophomore class, I don't mean the top athletes from each. I mean the entire class.
All of them.
All the students went out and played this game where they would try to get the ball over the goal line.
Okay.
Mob game.
Yeah.
It was incredibly violent. Other schools started adapting to this thing. Every school had their own rules, but Rutgers, College of New Jersey, which is Princeton today, Yale, they all had a version of this game where it was just mobs. And there were a couple of constants, right? One was the goal was to get the ball over the line. You had to score.
Right.
And the other was that there was kicking, punching, pushing, and fighting.
That was in the rules?
That's just, it was violent. Injuries were a constant.
Yeah.
But not surprisingly, by the 1860s, the faculty at Harvard came together and outlawed the Bloody Monday game because it was just too violent. New Haven, Connecticut.
Took them a while.
There were a lot of kids that were injured in between 1827 and 1860. In New Haven, Connecticut, they banned the game from the public lawn. The city outlaws the game so that they can no longer have the game, the Yale game. The Civil War really interrupted life, right?
Sure.
There were no college students. If you were a well-to-do young man from the Northeast, you served your country.
Right.
And so those schools all fell off.
Or paid somebody to do it. No, I'm not kidding. Teddy Roosevelt's father actually hired somebody to fight for him, which he, I don't know.
Would have been around fighting age?
Well, he because I guess his wife, Bullitt.
Yeah, from Roswell, Georgia.
Yeah, was from the South. And it was, families were split. He actually hired somebody. It was kind of a little bit of a deference to his wife, or at least that's what Teddy said.
That's the story.
Yeah, he's sticking to it.
Stick to it. So after the Civil War, the game comes back. The first official game that we consider football takes place between Rutgers and College of New Jersey, which is Princeton, November 6th, 1869. It was at Rutgers on College Field. That early game had 25 players on each side. No uniforms, except for the Rutgers players wore scarlet turbans.
No kidding. Huh.
In 1873, these schools all come together and they start to make some rules.
Okay.
Right? This is chaos.
Sure.
We need to establish some rules. So it's Yale, Princeton, Columbia. Those schools meet. Harvard doesn't. Harvard stays out of it because Harvard plays a different version of the game. It's called the Boston game. And the Boston game involves running with the ball and tackling. Okay. Whereas the game that the other schools are playing is basically just soccer. It's just kicking a ball.
But you can still pick up the ball. At that version, you can or cannot?
No, only in the Boston game. The Harvard kids were the ones who started playing games. So Harvard isn't allowed to play against these other schools. So they schedule a game against.
I can imagine that have some advantage if they're allowed to
pick the ball up.
If they're picking the ball up.
Yeah, and that was the thing is each school, whoever the home school was, determined the rules. Right? And so Harvard had a completely different set of rules, which was they could pick the ball up and tackle.
Got it.
And the other schools were like, well, that's not what we're playing because we have these rules. So Harvard plays against a school in Canada called McGill. Okay. And I think this is really the first football game is 1876 because this is a game that involves picking the ball up, running with it. It's rugby,
right?
Basically, they're tackling, they're kicking, there's scrums and all this sort of stuff. But that Harvard McGill game ends up being the first real quote unquote football game. And one of the players that plays in that game plays a huge role in the development of football. This guy named Walter Camp.
Okay.
And Walter Camp was on the Yale team. He's got some great quotes, just strategy wise, right? So the Harvard team was really good at strategy.
Okay.
They would go out and run plays. And they would pass the ball back. You couldn't pass the ball forward, but they would keep pitching the ball backwards. And the Yale players just could not figure out what the heck was going on, and they would score. And he said that just the tactical elements. So he really got into okay, there is some strategy. It's not just running at each other and violently.
Brute force.
He starts looking at this. And Walter Camp is considered the father of American football. Cool. His innovations, he limits the number of players to 11 men per side, which is what we do to this day. In rugby, when the ball's down and there's no possession, it's called a scrum, right? Scrummage.
Right.
He develops this thing called the scrimmage. It's the line of scrimmage.
Close.
So instead of the ball being loose and everybody just clawing, a team gets possession at the line of scrimmage.
He came up with possession.
He came up with the possession.
Okay.
So you have possession of the football. You're not just scrambling around and killing whoever has the ball. You're set. You pass the ball back, and then you actually run a play. There's something called the neutral zone. He creates a little separation between the players, so there's just a little bit of space. And he also shapes the modern downs. The system of first, second, third, fourth. So he really becomes the innovator of college football.
Of what we know is football today.
Yeah, and I don't think there's anything more important than the huddle, right? I mean, I think the huddle is probably the piece of the football game that I don't think Walter Camp came up with.
No, he did not. In fact, that did not develop until the 1890s, and it was the guy that came up with it was a guy named Paul D. Hubbard. Who was a quarterback for Gallaudet University football team in Washington, D.C., and Gallaudet was a school for the hearing impaired.
Really?
And and so before that, and I'll tell you kind of how it came about. But before that, plays were just called kind of casually on the field, and hopefully, quarterback was far enough away from the other team so that they couldn't hear it. But when these, hearing impaired schools were playing, they were calling out their plays with sign language. And so the other team could actually see what the guy was signing, And so Hubbard realized that kind of mid game. He could see this awareness kind of come over, this change, come over the other players, the opposite team. And so he called everybody together, in a huddle so that he could hide his sign language.
Oh, that's awesome.
Isn't that cool? And so it kind of took off from there, and it spread. They think it spread across the country because graduates, especially folks that wanted to be educators that graduated from Gallaudet, there weren't that many jobs. I mean, you had to kind of, span across the country in order to find a job that was, for your specialty, or that maybe was a school, another school hearing impaired. And so these graduates kind of, ended up all over the country. The educators, a lot of them started or got involved with football programs at other schools and introduced the huddle to those schools. And so it really grew rapidly because of this guy, Paul Hubbard. And
that's incredible.
Isn't that cool? And so Hubbard actually he was from Kansas. He went back and started a football program at Kansas State. Worked there for 43 years, and when he retired, they named the field that, dedicated the field to him.
No way.
So the field at Kansas State is Hubbard Field.
To this day.
That's what I'm told.
As far as you know.
Exactly. Which is pretty cool, I think.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
So when we get to the early 1900s, there really needs to be an intervention in football. It's true. In 1904, 18 people died playing the game of football. And there were almost 160 serious injuries.
It was not surprising. Right?
Not surprising.
Yeah.
It was, even though they had some rules and they had figured out some ways to play a more sort of formal style, so it wasn't just mob rule football.
Right.
A lot of young Americans were dying.
And we probably should have covered like the evolution of the football helmet, because at this time
it's just the leather. It's
leather.
just they're not really wearing helmets.
Right.
So I didn't actually do any research into that. But it's interesting that you say Teddy Roosevelt, because Teddy Roosevelt is the one who steps in. Newspaper editorials are calling for football to be outlawed and to be banned. It's just this whole thing that, just like what happened in the 1860s at Harvard and Yale, where they prohibited football, that same thing is coming back around. And so Teddy Roosevelt invites all the football supporters, these people, to come into the White House, and he introduces a series of reforms, and he pushes for safer rules. And because of Roosevelt's, grabbing onto, and of course, Roosevelt thought of football as a manly exercise.
Right.
For him, it was all about that, proving yourself and being tough.
It called it making your body.
Making your body.
Yeah.
So this was all so he could keep football alive and be the hero, and he really ends up rescuing football from the.
It does not surprise me at all.
The back shelf from history.
Yeah, does not surprise me at all.
And then the other big innovation besides the huddle, of course, is the forward pass.
Let's hear it.
And so you
Great
have
story.
To get into the forward pass. In the forward pass, the first forward pass, unbelievably, is by that same Walter Camp.
No kidding.
It's the same guy that comes up with the rules governing football. He was playing for Yale, and it was a Yale-Princeton game in 1879, and he was, scrambling, and he tossed the ball forward. And a player caught it and scrambled for a touchdown. And everybody, disallowed it. The referee tossed a coin. And because of the coin toss, the touchdown was allowed to stand. So do you think
that's because you think he just did it on the spur of the moment, or do you think that he had, with his knowledge of coming up with these rules, that he thought maybe there's a loophole here?
I don't think so. I think he just panicked. Okay, that would have been a Thornton Kennedy.
Yeah,
I'm about to be tackled.
Right
here.
I don't just get it away from me.
Get him. The other version, the other forward pass, which I think is much more interesting.
Let's hear it.
Walter Camp, although don't forget Walter Camp yet.
I'm not.
It happens right here in Atlanta, Georgia.
Fantastic.
And it's a gentleman named Pop Warner. And Pop Warner is synonymous with football. Little league teams are called Pop Warner football.
Okay.
And Pop Warner they called him Pop because he was such a huge guy. Mm-hmm. And he's on the train going to Cornell. And the football coach sees him and goes over to him and says, "Son, where are you going?" He says, "I'm going to Cornell." And he goes, "You got to try out for the football team." And he had never played the game, didn't know what it was. He was a big baseball player, but because of his sheer size, he ends up becoming a star football player, a star athlete. I mean, he was very good at sports, but he really found his rhythm in football. He coached at Iowa State and University of Georgia in the same year.
No kidding.
Yeah. He was coaching at Iowa State. Georgia recruited him, so he went and coached Iowa State at the beginning of the summer, and then right before the season started, he came down to Athens and coached Georgia. So he later coached at Pitt, Stanford, Temple. The other guy in this story is John Heisman.
We know that name.
John Heisman was the first paid coach at Georgia Tech in 1904. Won 102 games. He famously coached the 222-0 football game.
Jeez.
Did you know there's a football game where 222?
I did not. But
against a school called Cumberland. It's the biggest, most points scored in a college football game.
John Heisman 220.
Yeah, and he's the namesake, obviously, of the Heisman Trophy because he was the head of the New York Athletic Club later in life.
Okay.
And when he passed away, the New York Athletic Club decided to honor him by naming the trophy they gave out every year for him. So it was actually a Pop Warner coached game in 1895, right? He's coaching the University of Georgia against the University of North Carolina. And in the stands that day was the coach, John Heisman, who was coaching the predecessor of Auburn University. He was just there scouting. He was just there to look and see what the competition was. And during the game, the Georgia punter the UNC punter goes to avoid a block. He panics. He tosses the ball downfield for a 70-yard touchdown reception.
No kidding.
70-yard touchdown.
Wow.
It's an illegal play.
Yeah.
Blatantly. But the play stood. No. And they allowed UNC a touchdown to stand. So John Heisman sees this and realizes
there's something to this. Something to this.
And so he, as a coach, continuously goes to the rules committee and tries to get them to change the rules so that they can introduce the
What if he had not been in the stands that day?
What if he had not been in the stands? What if the butterfly flapping its wings?
Indeed.
So who do you think the head of the rules committee was?
I have no idea.
Walter Camp.
Oh, no way.
The man who actually made the first forward pass is the head of the Intercollegiate Rules Committee.
Okay.
So he's actually going to Walter Camp and begging for the guy who actually threw the first forward pass in 18 whatever.
Allegedly,
And so finally, in 1906, the forward pass is legalized in 1906 thanks to John Heisman changing the rules. It does not actually become popular.
Really?
They don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
So the game continues to be the ground game of running and wedges and all that blocking.
Right.
And it isn't until 1913 at Notre Dame and Newt Rockne that they figure out, wait a second.
This is cool.
We can actually score points with the forward pass.
Right.
And I don't think football would be the same if you didn't
absolutely
have it. Even in the evolution of the game today, it's all about throwing the ball downfield.
That's right.
Although some of us who are still purists, we still love that Georgia football, that tailback U.
Yeah.
Just grind, pound, and get the yards. So I think that how football evolves, how football becomes the most important sort of sporting event is really because of those postseason tournaments, right?
Those bowl games?
It's those bowl games, right? That are you have nothing to do.
Right.
It's after Christmas.
Right.
You're with your family. And what are you going to do? You're going to watch the Orange Bowl or the Cotton Bowl or
that's exactly what you're going to do.
2 or 3 of them.
Yeah, well, I got a little something on that.
Really?
Yeah, as a matter of fact. So, and the crazy thing is that these bowl games, or at least the first bowl game, was nothing more than a gimmick to try and attract tourists, actually to Pasadena. And in 1890, there were residents of Pasadena. There were only 5,000.
1890.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
There were only 5,000 people that lived in Pasadena at that time, and they
were.
It's
a pain in the ass to get all the way across the country.
Yeah, and so they began attempting to try and attract tourists, free spending tourists from the Midwest and Northeast. There were snowbirds, coming in, and so they started putting on this annual New Year's Day spectacle. And at first it wasn't a football game. They had a parade, I guess like they do now, with horses and carriages with roses and flowers, and they had foot races and polo games, greased pig chases, and a Spanish game called the Tourney of Rings, which they later adapted into to be the Tournament of Roses. But in 1901, the Tournament of Roses Association in Pasadena thought that a football game would be a good thing to add to this, and bring in more people. Football was certainly growing in popularity at that time. And so they thought, man, we could get, if we picked one team from the West and one team from the East, that would, bring in a lot of people. And so they chose Stanford and also invited Michigan, which was the best team.
That's a really good football game.
Yeah. Well, it was, if you're a Michigan fan. And they also picked Michigan because, or this combination, because their coach, Michigan's coach, a guy named Fielding Harris Hurry Up Yost, had also previously, great name.
What
right?
a great name.
Great name. Had previously coached the Stanford team. So he's got he's got connections, for both schools, And so they bring Michigan in, takes them a week to get there. And on New Year's Day in 1902, they hold the game. They don't call it the Rose Bowl yet, obviously. We'll get to that. But they hold the game at Tournament Park on the campus of Throop Polytechnic Institute, which became Caltech.
Caltech,
yeah.
Sure.
And little side note, rabbit hole. Throop on Caltech. Throop was a poor, started out as a poor cabinet maker, but made a bunch of money in banking and real estate. And he understood practical skills plus finance, and he thought that there should be a college or a university that kind of had these combined these skills, and so he endowed both with land and money what became Caltech.
What a great rabbit hole! I had no idea.
Yeah,
That's fantastic.
A cabinet maker made good, So the Michigan Stanford game, this 1902 game, was a complete blowout. Michigan defeats Stanford 49-0.
Ooh.
Yeah, not 220 to but 40, but still, Stanford fumbled 9 times. They requested a mercy kill of the game with 8 minutes remaining. And the thing was, it was really popular. This stadium could only hold, it wasn't really a stadium, but a field could only hold 1,000 people, but 8,500 people packed in there.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a really big deal. And apparently they brought their flasks with them as well. It was a pretty unruly crowd. And so it was such a lopsided score that the promoters thought, man, the audience, is going to think that it's going to be just a, lopsided game every year, and we didn't really like this rowdy crowd, so they decide not to put the game on again.
You're kidding?
I'm not kidding.
So it's such a train wreck from the game itself is bad. The people misbehave.
So listen to what they replace, and this also tells you how football's big, but it's not that big yet because they replace it with what they think is going to be even a bigger crowd pleaser for 1903, which is a Ben-Hur style chariot races, and in addition to that, ostrich races to replace the football game.
I'm in.
Yeah, right.
100%.
So they do this for 10 years, and football's really taken off during this time, 1910, 20s. Football's getting really big. They got forward pass now and everything. And so they bring back the postseason football game, and it's a mega success, so successful that they need a permanent venue for it, and that's when they build the Rose Bowl. And I think it seats 57,000 people, and they held the first Rose Bowl in 1923.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And that's the big takeaway is that even in the 1870s, thousands of people would show up to these Harvard-Yale games.
Yeah.
It was always incredibly popular. So despite everyone trying to shut the game down, spectators, it was all about people coming out and enjoying the game.
Right. If it weren't for football, we wouldn't be watching football today.
I know. And I know our friend Wright Mitchell likes to tell the story of the clean old-fashioned hate when all the Georgia Tech fans started attacking the Georgia fans after a game and throwing rocks and mud at them.
Well, there's some good old-fashioned hate between Yale and Harvard, and that's the reason, actually. You got a little bit more on why we call them bowl games. And you think, well, it's obvious, the Rose Bowl shaped like a bowl, but there's a little more to it. They built the Rose Bowl, kind of modeling it after or as a nod to the Yale Bowl, which was built in 1914 and was the largest college football stadium in the country. It was designed so that all, as a bowl, so that all 70,000 people could have an unimpeded
game.
Right, exactly. And they also designed it so to kind of outshine Harvard, which had just built a pretentious Greco-Roman style stadium modeled after the Pan-Athenic Stadium in Athens, which had just hosted the first modern Olympic Games in 1896. And so after the bowl, the Yale Bowl was constructed, the president at the time, Yale president, said, Quote, I'm glad that Yale, in spite of its classic traditions, prefers the good old word bowl to the Colosseum of the Romans or the Stadium of the Greeks. Totally as a slam or a snub to Harvard.
Just a little stick in the eye,
Just a little stick. So, we call them bowl games today. I mean, all of the other bowls that followed the Rose Bowl, picked up the bowl terminology, called it that because of the Rose Bowl. But the Rose Bowl, again, has that connection to Yale, which was a snub originally to Harvard. So pretty cool.
And certainly the rivalries are what make football.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's all about going to watch Georgia, Florida when I was coming up. Those were the great games. So that's a little brief history of football. I mean, we got 30 minutes, so we don't have a ability to go too deep. What was your favorite thing you learned in doing research?
I loved hearing today that Heisman, went to go to, time again, or went to get the rule for, forward pass, made, allowed or permitted. And it was camp that he was presenting to. I thought that was pretty cool.
I absolutely love the William Webb Ellis, the little boy at the rugby school in England who picked up a ball just selfishly and ran across the line and ends up creating a sport.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's just too funny to me.
I also love the ostrich races and the chariot races, which they thought would be better attended
honestly,
than a football game. Yeah.
Why didn't they continue to do that?
Well,
that would have been
or do both.
That would have been great.
Indeed.
So thank you so much for joining us for History for Cocktail Parties. We'll be back. Our next episode is going to be huge. We are going to talk about
the international manhunt for James Earl Ray. So
it is one of the most compelling stories you will ever hear.
Triumph of justice, triumph of the FBI.
Yeah. And a man who essentially completely disappeared off radar following one of the most heinous assassinations in the history of our country.
Absolutely.
It's fascinating.
Indeed. Well, hey, if you would, hope you'll like or comment on our show here, and please share with your friends. Whether we say like, subscribe, follow, all those good things. We appreciate you listeners. This is History for Cocktail Parties with hack historians Thornton Kennedy and James Ottley.